You saw the thumbnail. Yes, someone is attacked with a cross in this manga, and that's not the craziest thing that happens. 1972 Japan. Kamen was doing very, very well, but creator Ishimori was told to make it so they could cross-promote to kids, so they could read manga, because producers like to do that to people. Somehow, this is a kids manga. Kids media for Japanese kids goes really hard compared to like where I'm at, where it's a lot less. I guess that has been a trend for a long time. Hongo Takeshi is a rich and intelligent man, and one day is in an accident, quote-unquote, by a secret cult known as Shocker, who then turns him into a cyborg so they can add him to their army of cyborgs so they can take over Japan. Luckily, Hongo is saved by a professor whose name I can't pronounce but is on the screen right now. I can't say words, I'm not apologizing. Whom was captured by Shocker months ago and is forced to help them create cyborgs. Luckily, Hongo, enhanced by his cyborg abilities, is easily able to break out and saves the professor, but they are begin hunted down by a Spider-Man. Now, not to be confused with that Spider-Man. No, not that one. That one. Yes. Good. I'm probably gonna cut all that. That was really bad jokes. A robot man known as the Spider-Man is sent to hunt down Hongo and the professor. The professor is poisoned by the spider and dies right in time for his daughter Ruriko comes in, and it looks like Hongo's just choking out the professor. And she thinks Hongo murdered her dad. Then Spider-Man shows up and kidnaps her. Compared to the show, interesting things of this version is that whenever Hongo loses his temper, we see the surgical scars from the operation. This concept's better explored in Shin Kamen Rider when he becomes more bug-like and it looks really cool. Kamen Rider hunts down the Spider-Man. They fight, and the Spider-Man loses some of his limbs and is presumed dead. But, just like a good Spider-Man, through sheer willpower, he survives and begs for forgiveness from the evil Shocker and is granted to his and my surprise. And that's the first arc. So, you know, Shocker being Shocker, they're like, we kind of messed up already, so what are we gonna do? We're gonna send a Batman, because you see, Ishimori is a big fan of comics, so all the villains are probably semi-inspired by, you know, superheroes. Batman is the next villain of this arc, and the tone of his action turns to horror. Batman is shown in the shadows, and we see him as he's attacking Ruriko's friend Hiromi. Now, who's Hiromi? We don't care. We do not care. So, you know, Ruriko's a little traumatized after watching her dad die, being kidnapped, being on the run from Spider-Man. It's not a good time. Oh yeah, and we forgot to mention that she still thinks that Hongo, you know, unalived her father. And Ruriko asks Hiromi to come over so she can confide in her, but she's also staying at Hongo's place for some reason. Tachibana, Hongo's aide and best friend, tries to convince her to trust Hongo because he's not a bad guy. I mean, he couldn't hurt a fly. Come on. Both the spider and the bat attack the home, and Hiromi also attacks because she's now a vampire. It's just a step to a world of chaos. The horror elements are shown full swing with this intense panel of Hiromi showing her vampirism, and these intense shadows show a darker tone. Ruriko is saved by Tachibana with this sword, who just fights his way through a vampire, and Hongo's just busy fighting spiders. And then Hongo drives his bike over the Spider-Man, crushing him. Look, Hongo's supposed to be the beacon of heroism. To see him go this savage already, I love it. Batman then grabs Hongo and he flies in the sky, and Ishimori shows wonderful paneling to show this intense movement. No words, a black background, a slow zoom into Hongo, and then to show more intensity and dread, we cut as a more intense Hongo starts falling faster and faster, and his body starts becoming a blurrier and blurrier. And this sequence ends with him rolling in multiple pictures, with him showing this beautiful landing. Not another way could have been shown of how intense the sequence was. It's the best part of the manga. Hongo then returns, and Spider-Man disintegrates into bubbles. There was this cheap effect they did in the show whenever someone was unalived, but here it's just how death works. I love bubbles. Bubbles are cool. When I die, I want to become Bubbles. Ruriko then returns to Hiromi's old apartment to pay respects to her gone friend. The entire place is full of vampires. Both Hiromi and Tachibana are then turned into vampires. As stated before, this is a horror chapter. The original source material was without a doubt an action hero show. The tension never existed to this degree. It's never been this dark. Tachibana was never really in danger. No one really important died in the original show. Here, who knows how it could go. This feels more like Devilman in its bloodthirsty approach. While this did come out before Devilman, luckily Hongo took a sample and has figured out a way to cure vampirism. This Van Helsing man then goes and cures his friends. He feels awful for seeing his surgical scars, and they haunt him, making him feel more isolated from the world at large. He has no one who can relate to his experiences. While this deep personal conversation was going on, Batman was hiding in a coffin, classic vampire, and then they get into a fight. In there, Hongo's bitten by the vampire, but luckily, because he is part cyborg, he is able to overcome it, and then he stabs the vampire's wing with a stake. Look at this panel. Hongo's out for blood. There is no mercy from this man. Hongo, now chasing the Man of Bats, ends up at a graveyard, and Hongo kills a man who's trying to attack him because this guy was infected by the vampirism. And then more and more people start showing up, and Hongo is hurt seeing these innocent people become murderers because of this disease, and that he ended one of their lives. And it hurts him. So he enters a deep rage and then runs up to Batman and rips off his wings. He goes for the throat, then impales him with a cross. By the way, this is 4 volumes long, and we aren't done with the first volume yet. Now, while the villains do appear in the show, the way the events go, they couldn't be more different than anything. The first chapter could be argued to be a loose adaptation, but the rest of the manga is its own thing. There's no guy being impaled by a cross in the TV show, is all I'm saying. And why not, gamers? Where are the crosses? Where are people being impaled upon crosses? I demand it. I need it. A large theme of this show is, is this really the next sentence? A large theme from here on out is anti-pollution. The next arc is about a Cobra Man killing anti-pollution protesters. It feels so weird to just jump from that to this. Oh well. Well, Shocker's goals haven't been stated yet. Later on, won't worry. The lead protester who's mysteriously disappeared, he's dead. He died. He's gone. But his son is walking his dog with his friend, and he talks about his dad. I wonder where this is going. It's a kid's manga. I'm sorry for treating it differently. I just don't like kid segments in my manga. I want to see a man kill more things. Now, they have this long conversation about the dog, and the dog starts being a little mean to everyone, especially to this, like, weird, mysterious girl. And then Hongo just shows up and drop kicks the dog. Hongo's begun his Dio arc, and I'm all for it. And that's how Volume 1 ends. I can't imagine reading this at the time and the sheer horror of wondering why did he kick a dog. Ishimori goes hard. To continue the insanity, in the next chapter in Volume 2, the dog turns to stone. Hongo then takes the kid whose dog he just beat up and makes him a ward. Right after, he's immediately kidnapped by Cobra, and Cobra loses the fight pretty easily. He's kind of a pushover, kind of a joker, if you will. Then the lady who's being weird is revealed to be Medusa, and the two plan their vengeance. Shocker here is a lot more forgiving than before, but I guess they assume the more cyborgs, the better chance they have of eventually killing Hongo. Hongo continues his early thoughts of feeling like an outcast from his friends and family. Cobra and Medusa then set up a trap, and ends with Cobra accidentally being killed by Medusa, and Medusa then takes her own life. Like a true Greek tragedy right there. The secret identity aspect is one that's slowly gone away from heroes. In the MCU, besides Spider-Man, no one really has one. I find it interesting how Hongo deals with his 2 lives. He isn't juggling it in a work-life balance. It's the way it affects his relationships. Mainly Ruriko, because everyone else kind of knows who he is. Ruriko, who has seen the 2 most important people of her life pass away in such a short period of time, her dad and her best friend. She's been slowly warming to Hongo, but he's constantly away at work. And by work, I mainly mean Kamen Rider activities, because this man doesn't work. He's rich. Needing some answer to why he's so distant, Hongo just doesn't know how to connect to anyone anymore. He feels broken. This causes a minor fight between the 2 of them, and Hongo doesn't want to tell her he's Kamen Rider, though the importance of not telling Ruriko is never really explored or mentioned. Maybe it's some sort of misogyny that he doesn't believe she can handle the truth. His enemies know who Kamen Rider is. Tachibana too. In the show, she doesn't know, but also Ruriko in the show doesn't matter as a character and doesn't contribute to the plot at all. Ruriko's purpose in the manga is that it's Hongo's one connection to the real world. Hongo has lost all of his connections besides Tachibana, but Tachibana is like a butler, and I guess he doesn't see him that much as a friend, compared to the show where they are truly best friends. It's also very misogynistic that she doesn't have any goals or ambitions. It's a disappointing aspect to me. It's interesting though that Ruriko lives in a home that's constantly attacked by Shocker. Speaking of, Hongo's home is attacked again by 12 Kamen Riders all similar to him. It's raining and it's dark. A cryptic line of the 13th is the number of death. And you, Hongo, are the 13th rider. Hongo escapes waiting for a better time and runs back to the house. And Ruriko, after having their big fight, brings home a guy. Wink, wink. And everyone's saying it's her boyfriend because of course that's what he'd be. But it's actually a reporter named Hayato who's looking into Ruriko's father's death. And he interrogates Hongo to get more information. But Hongo here, he doesn't want to reveal anything about Shocker. See, the public at large hasn't heard of Shocker. They're a mysterious organization, and neither do we, really. Outside of Hongo's mansion, we rarely see how the world is. It's just Shocker and Hongo's team. And there's this big anti-pollution craze, but how does the world view Kamen Rider? It's not known to us at all. He couldn't be non-existent, though he's probably semi-well-known. He is mysterious as Shocker in many ways. Hayato and Hongo, then after their big interrogation, Hayato leaves. But in the process of leaving, we can see he has android scars. And outside the manor, Hongo and Hayato stare each other down. And then Hongo shot by a sniper. Hongo luckily is able to pull out his gun and shoots Hayato in the head. See, when Hongo's not in the suit, he's a slightly stronger person, but the suit gives him all of his powers and strength. He's, in comparison, very weak without it. Hongo's then hunted down by the other 11 Kamen Riders. He then has his bike drive over another person because that's what Hongo does. The entire action sequence of Hongo versus the 12 Riders is extremely intense, and it ends with him being gunned down, but luckily he is saved when Hayato, who cured his mind control after being shot in the head. I love this manga. Then they put Hongo's brain into Hayato's, and now they're best friends, and also one person now. Spoilers for Shin Kamen Rider, this is how the movie ends as well. Though, through any lack of interaction besides the one conversation they have makes this so jarring. For those who don't know why this was done, in the original show, the actor playing Hongo broke his leg and was replaced by a second Kamen Rider. Some of the origin stories provided, but the brotherhood they shared is so unearned. They only spent one conversation together, and one was mind controlled during that. Ishimori loves to end his volumes on the most massive plot twist or moments of insanity. Shin Kamen Rider ends around here, and this seems like a good stopping point as well. More on this manga another time. It's fucking insane.